Well, hey everybody, how are you doing? My name is Patrick and I am so glad you are here. I start every single YouTube video, well, almost every single YouTube video with something along the lines of, my name is Patrick, I am a husband, I'm a dad, and along with being a worship pastor at a church, I am also an owner of my own tech business. And today, I wanted to give a bit of a live stream. You can tell from the title that I'm going to be leaning into that worship pastor aspect of my life because I am a worship pastor. I work at a church, and a lot of churches, especially the worship ministry, likes to use multitracks in worship. Now, if you don't know what that is, we're going to get into that. But welcome to the live stream. This is going to be the best live stream I've ever done because this is the first live stream I've ever done. So if you are watching, all three of you, if you could just let me know, is all the sound coming through okay and all of that? I want to make sure you guys can hear and see everything you need. I can see, I'm able to see your comments. So if there's anything that you would like to ask at all during this live stream, please do so. I am not going to be offended or taken aback by any question at all. You know what, though? I actually want to go over here. Give me 1 second. I am going to go and turn off the AC so it doesn't come through the mic. And we're back, and you can already tell it sounds so much better. Like I said, today we are talking about using multi-tracks in worship. So just real quick, so you know my story. Like I said, my name is Patrick, and I have been a worship pastor most of my adult life. I started leading worship when I was 13. A whole nother story that deserves a whole nother video. And as I started working at different churches, eventually someone said, I'm going to go start a church in New York. Would you like to come with me? And here I am, 16 years later in New York. Actually, as a matter of fact, I just celebrated my 16th year in New York, August 4th, move-in date, whatever. And I've been living in New York for 16 years, and I've led worship at a bunch of different churches all over the U.S., and I have led worship all over the world. International, baby, just like Pitbull. Mr. International? I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, and as I progressed in this worship career, let's just call it a career, one thing that I see talked about all the time is running tracks and worship. And I started to get a little bit excited about that idea because, let's be honest, being a part of a worship ministry every once in a while can just feel like you're in God's cover band. And unless you're writing, unless you're creating, things can at times get a little stale when it comes to creativity. I'm not talking about stale in your faith or anything like that. And one thing I love about running tracks and worship is it kind of spices things up if you do it the right way. It makes things fun for your team. It makes things a little bit more challenging for your team. And who doesn't like to grow and be challenged every once in a while? Well, that's what multi-tracks do. And they also just help your band sound better. Someone said here, 16 years in New York, no joke. That is true. 16 years, no joke. All seriousness. So what on earth will we be covering today? Well, I've got a setup in front of me where I'm going to be running tracks. And let me kind of just show you, excuse me, let me just show you what I'm working with. First of all, I'm using a Zoom live track here, so all my sounds are going to go in there and come out to the live stream. I am using a Morningstar engineering pedal that we're going to cue all of our tracks or fire all of our tracks with. This iPad here is just for notes or if in case I need to draw something out for you guys. And for you nerds who are wondering how I'm actually running this live stream, I have this ATEM right here. As a matter of fact, let me just do this. I'll flip this guy over here, and I will show you real quick. Yes. Okay, so I've got my computer right here, which is taking everything in using this little CalDigit Thunderbolt interface. I've got my Morningstar engineering. We're going to talk about this. And I've got this little pedal, expression pedal that can bring pads in. We're going to talk about that. This is what's taking all of my audio. I've got my ATEM here, getting all of my camera feeds. I've got a camera up top there that you guys should be able to see a view of every once in a while. I've got my multi-view in front of me so I can see what I'm doing. And then I've got that camera right there. And both of these cameras are Panasonic GH5s. So for those of you who are wondering, what I'm using and your gearheads, well, there you go. Now you know what I'm using. What an incredible setup, I guess. Oh, I'm also using this Shure Beta SM58, and it's 8 p.m. in New York, but I am drinking a coffee. Call me crazy. Let's go for it. Okay, so what are multitracks? And here's one of the best ways that I can sum up what multitracks are in a sentence or two. Multitracks are instruments and sounds that accompany any number of musicians to enhance the audio of their live performance. Now, along with what multitracks are, any number of instruments and sounds that are going to enhance the performance of live musicians. What are multitracks? What are multitracks not? I think that we should also talk about this. Multitracks are not a replacement for all of your live musicians. Now, let me explain what I mean. So, long story short, when a worship team, a worship artist, or any artist for that matter, records a song in a studio, they have a bass player, or they have a bass synthesizer, or they have a keys player, or they have a drummer, or they have 19 guitar players and 30 vocalists. They have any number of musical instruments, including voice and instruments that you play. And when they go to the studio, those instruments are recorded as tracks. And it's not one track, it's multi-tracks. And a lot of churches, who most of the time are volunteer-based, they want to sound, I kind of jokingly say I'm in God's cover band every once in a while as a worship pastor, but they want to sound as close as they can to the artist. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So what we do is we rehearse our teams and we try to sound good, but we're never going to truly match that studio or even that live sound that a band is creating. Why? Because when they record a song, they do what's called overdubs. And they add 13 extra guitar parts, 17 different keys parts, and it creates this big wall of sound. Not in every worship situation, but in a lot of them. It creates this big wall of sound that you're never going to achieve with the team of volunteers that you have. So, in the background, you can actually purchase the original tracks, or sometimes recreated tracks, from those worship artists to play along with your band. It's not replacing your guitar player, replacing your bass player, replacing your keys player. It's just adding to the sound to make it sound more full. As a matter of fact, those worship teams that go out on the road and lead worship at this church and that auditorium and this, big tent situation at a fairground somewhere, they also run their own tracks in the background because they can't take that many musicians on the road with them. So the original artists, as well as just a small local guy like me in a church, are running these tracks in the background just to make it sound more full and more fun for whoever is participating in that worship service. Okay, so I got somebody saying coffee all day, somebody saying crazy as heck, and I've got my dad here saying great stuff. Hey, it is great stuff. Thank you. So how do I use these multi-tracks? I've kind of explained them to you a little bit, but let me show you how I use them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move over to my computer here, and I'm just going to go ahead and open an application that we're going to get into in a little bit called Ableton Live. Let me show you my computer really quickly. So here's my computer. Here's what I am currently looking at on my screen. And if I push play, you're going to hear a couple of things. 1, 2. Let's just start here. First and foremost, you are going to hear a click track. Now, what is this? This is essentially, and I've muted everything else. This is essentially giving us the tempo of the song. This will play out through the entire song. If I solo this next instrument here along with the click track, or alone by itself, not with the click track. Intro. This is called the cue track. Did you hear that person say intro? It's telling us what section of the song to play. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be playing in the audience. The audience is not going to hear intro, and they're not going to hear click. That's why right now I'm using these in-ear monitors. The band hears the click track to keep them in time. The band hears the cue track telling them what section is coming up to play. But the audience just hears all these extra sounds along with the live band that makes the band sound more full. Let me push play one more time. 2.
1,
And I've
2,
made it so you can hear
3,
everything.
4.
And this is a, kind of
Intro.
a popular song called Lion and the Lamb.
Intro.
Now, when I'm playing live in my church, we have a drummer. So I'm just going to turn off the drum track because my drummer plays, and we don't need a drum track. I also have a bass player, so I'm going to turn off the bass track.
Verse.
And I like having a lead guitar player with me, so I might turn off these lead guitar parts. But that second electric guitar player, this little percussive piano part in the background, I want to keep playing. And so you would hear my band playing full, playing live, with these sounds behind us filling out the sound.
Chorus.
For instance, I think it's there's that clap sound. I'm not going to have a musician on stage just going into a mic. I might want that just with my musicians who are playing. Right? I play acoustic guitar, so I turn off the acoustic guitar. And the point I want to make is that you're never going to see a guy like me on stage playing acoustic guitar by myself with a bunch of instruments playing with me digitally. You're just not going to see that. What you're going to see is a full team, but it's going to be a really full-sounding team, or a more full-sounding team, because we have these instruments accompanying us as we play. And let me just kind of show what that looks like a little bit more full. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to keep it as is. And I'm going to open up my Ableton Live project for Sundays that we use every single week. And once this opens up, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is going to be way more extensive. We're no longer looking at one individual song in this application called Ableton Live. We are now looking at my entire project that houses all the songs we might do on a Sunday. Now, some people set it up so that they create an Ableton Live session for their set list every single Sunday. That's different, that's new, that's really small. I have it so that I can open up Ableton and pick out of my entire list of songs which songs I want to play that Sunday. So let me show you what that looks like. So here's my entire list of songs. And as I move down here, you're going to see some names like All Hail King Jesus. You're going to see Be Enthroned. You're going to see Breakthrough. You're going to see all sorts of stuff. And you're going to see these instruments grouped in a real specific way that we're going to get into a little bit later. And not only do I have this project that is filled with songs that we play on a week-to-week basis, but I also have, let me go to this camera here, I also have this controller that controls what's happening in Ableton. So long story short, when I come up, and I actually didn't set this up ahead of time, so I'm just going to do it real quick right now. I'm going to make this button start this song here. Yeah. And actually, oh, hold on, let me... And I'm going to make, let's see, I'm going to make this button here cue this next song. Let me just quit that app real quick. Yes. And I'm going to make this button here. You can't see it right now. I'm going to show you later. It says end. I'm going to have this end the song. Great. So when I walk up on a Sunday, I have this foot controller right in front of me at my feet, and while I'm playing guitar, I am cueing whatever song I want to play, and it sounds, I would walk out, I'd welcome everybody, and it sounds like this. I hit this start button. Let's see here. There we go. And you hear the click track, and then I'm going to hit this second button, which counts the song in. Oh, I have my cues turned off. Sorry about that. Let me do that again.
1.
Okay, you hear the count in?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then the song just begins to play.
Verse.
We need no other hiding place. And I'm singing and I'm playing along, and there's a band behind me, and these multi-tracks are filling out the sound. Now, I'm going to talk about this system in greater detail later on, but that's essentially what I do on a Sunday. I open up one Ableton project, I have all of my songs inside it, and whatever songs I've decided to play for that Sunday morning, I get ready to queue up in this Ableton project. Now, not every song I play uses multi-tracks, but I always use a click track just to keep my band in time. If I'm playing with 2 people, I use a click track. If I'm playing with 20 people, I use a click track because it just keeps us in time. And if you have musicians that say, I hate playing to a click, that's another conversation for another time. All right, so let's actually talk a little bit more about how we get these multi-tracks, okay? And then I'm gonna show you how I download one of these multi-tracks, how I cut it up for my Sunday, how I put it into this large project that I've created, and how you can do the same thing. But before I do that, let me just check in and see if anybody's got any questions here. Somebody says, talk about good worship. I didn't know they had to do all of this. Wow, so cool. That's my son. Thank you, Declan. Dad works hard. Okay, we've got somebody saying, where does a worship leader purchase these tracks? We're about to talk about that. And I have somebody asking, it's saying it's a lot of money. I'll tell you that. Dang, that tempo faster than I would have guessed for that song. You're right, Studio Sec. I love your channel. Somebody's saying, hey. Noah's saying, hey, hi. Sounds so crispy. Love it. Okay, great. So let's go back and let me talk a little bit about how we get these multi-tracks. It's not free, but if you really think about it in the long run, it's not too expensive either. So here is my computer screen, and I want to talk about, let me see, can I actually put, oh, there's my face down there. There we go. I want to talk about 2 different websites. There are 2 different websites in the game that are really, top of the list as far as like creating or acquiring and selling these multi-tracks. And number 1 is Multitracks.com. Multitracks.com. Easiest, if we're talking about multi-tracks, it's the easiest website to remember. And the other is loopcommunity.com. So here is Multitracks.com. Here is loopcommunity.com. Now, both of these companies do one thing almost exactly the same, and then they do some other things very, very different. For instance, Multitracks doesn't sell any hardware at all. They deal in software and mostly tracks. And you know that the majority of the tracks you buy from Multitracks are the original tracks from the artist. Now, I'm right here on the webpage, and you can see that I've got Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham right here. Very popular worship song. I click on it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong site. But if I go back to Multitracks, they show you the same exact stuff. Here's Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham. If I were to, see that word right there? Those 2 words I should say, original master. If I were to purchase this multi-track, you would be purchasing the instruments that were recorded in the studio for Phil Wickham, this musician. You would be purchasing those actual instruments to use yourself. And you're thinking, well, do I have to buy songs, each individual key that I want to play in, C, D, A, G, whatever? No. If you purchase the song once, it comes with all the keys you could ever need, but you only have to use one of them or 2 of them, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later. And these are directly from the artist. Now, Loop Community is another website that's a little bit different. They have what is called premium tracks. Let me go to products here. Let's see, or maybe I should just, songs. And if you start to search for a song, you'll see track type. They have what's called master, premium, community, enhancement, and patch. So the master track you buy from Loop Community is, again, straight from the artist, just like Multitracks.com. Premium tracks are tracks that Loop Community's musicians have created themselves. Community tracks are tracks that other people have created that cost a little bit less because it's not directly from the artist. And then they have some other tracks like enhancements, and then they have what's called patches. Like you can buy specific keyboard patches for individual songs. Like I really want my keys to sound like the keyboard part on Battle Belongs. You can purchase them from Loop Community. So here you have some other options. Now, I could pour through the community tracks and find a cheaper track that sounds really good from Loop Community. You know what I do, though? I just actually stick with Multitracks.com. I know it's coming from the artist. I know it's going to sound phenomenal. And if I like the song I heard and I want to play it on a Sunday, then chances are if I buy the original tracks, I'm going to like those as well. So let's say that I wanted to buy one of these tracks. It starts at 31 bucks, okay? And if you go for this Wave multi-track here, it's going to be $35. If I go for an M4A, which is just a smaller, lower quality audio file, it's going to be $31. So around 30 to 40 bucks is what you're going to pay per song. Now, for some of you, that might be a deal breaker, but here's the way I look at it. If I purchase a song to use the multi-tracks from that song for a Sunday, I have it forever. I can change the key of that song. I can change the tempo of that song. I can do almost anything I want to cut up that song and play it on a Sunday, and I have it forever. I mean, think about the amount of money you paid for the mic that your pastor speaks into. Was it $200? $800? What about the projector that's on the ceiling that you're going to have to replace the bulb for every, few years? Was it $900? $2,000? 40 bucks for a song that you can use forever? My opinion, totally worth it. Okay? And which is why I spoke to my pastor, my boss, a few years ago when I started using multitracks.com, and I said, I want to budget 40 bucks a week to purchase songs to build my library of songs. And what I found was I cut that back down to every 2 weeks. And so we budget 80 bucks per month to buy 2 multi-tracks that I might be playing on or using on a Sunday. Now, once you start to purchase these, you get quite a library, and you might be able to cut it back to 1 track per month, or even 1 track every couple of months. Or maybe you're just still budgeting for a couple tracks a month, and then fast forward a few months and you haven't used that budget in a while, and you come up on a set list where you need to buy a bunch of Christmas songs. You've got the budget for it. So you definitely want to talk to your pastor about this, and maybe you've got a big budget, maybe you've got a small budget. Who knows? You'll be able to work something out. But long story short, I'm able to purchase my multi-tracks from loopcommunity.com or multitracks.com. And then once I have it forever. So I'm just going to go to a song that I already just played that I've purchased from Multitracks. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to begin to chop it up and show you how I get it ready for a Sunday. So let me just go ahead and hide my web browser there. And let me hop over here to, let me quit out of this. I'll save it, sure. And let me open up that song I downloaded, Lion and the Lamb. Now, if I show you here on my screen, if I go down here to my Finder, in my downloads folder, Lion and the Lamb comes up like this. It comes up as a disk image, which is just like a package of information. And when I open it up, it comes in a folder like this. And one thing I do, let me actually move this to its own little, there we go. One thing I do when I click on this folder to open up the Lion and the Lamb multi-track is I always rename. Sometimes this is the actual file we're going to open here. Sometimes it's just labeled as multi-track. And I change that over to actually have the song title in it, what key it's in, and the tempo or the beats per minute. So I'm going to double click this. I'm going to open up this individual song to start chopping up to add to my full project, and we'll keep going. And while that's opening, let me just pop over here to some of to my YouTube comments here and see if anybody's asking any questions. Nope, no other questions. Okay, cool. We're just going to keep going. All right, so here is Lion and the Lamb. And one thing I want to bring up real quick here, before we really dig in to how we chop these songs up and use them on a Sunday, if you've come to this video and you want to argue about using multi-tracks, if it's the right thing to do, or if it's like, music-y enough, you've come to the wrong place. I mean, this is something that a lot of people do. It doesn't make it the best thing for your ministry or your band, but it really works for me and works for tons of other people. So if you want to argue about whether or not multi-tracks are good or bad or what have you, not the video for you. But if you are kind of like just going, I don't understand this, or maybe you are a little skeptical, but you want to learn more, this is it. This is the video for you. So what I'm going to do here is just really quickly address some concerns about using multi-tracks before I chop this thing up. worship shouldn't just be this regimented thing where we come before God and we begin to play music and we're just like, this is what we do. It is okay to play a song, copy, paste, just like an album from start to finish. It is also okay to kind of move outside of the bounds of a song and sing a new song just that pops into your head. And maybe that's not something you're comfortable with or something that you do often. It's something I do all the time. I'm playing and all of a sudden Lion and the Lamb ends, or in the middle of Lion and the Lamb, I just get this like word or this phrase that I want to sing and I just go for it. So a lot of people think that using multitracks like stops you from having creativity. It stops you from being spontaneous. Not true. You can cut to different sections. You can repeat sections. There's all sorts of things you can do here with multitracks, which, by the way, I feel like I've said the word multitracks about 75 times, and that's okay. I'm allowed. It's my live stream. I'm sorry. Okay, so how do I get this to where I can use it in a service easily? Number one, if I just push play,
Bridge.
I could just use this song just like this. And maybe that's the way you want to start using tracks. You just want to play one song, try it with your team. That's fine. But I'm actually going to cut it up and add it to my big project like I've been saying. So here's what I'm going to do. Number one, I'm going to open up this little guide track here. So every song comes with a guide track. It tells you chorus, verse, whatever is coming up next. I'm going to click on that entire region of audio. Can I just Command D here? Oh, let me actually go back. Oh boy, I made a huge mistake in front of everyone. I'm going to not save that and then open up Lion and the Lamb again. While that's opening, let me just check the comments. There we go. Live Keyboardist is asking, how do we adjust tempo? That is something that we are going to talk about a little bit later, which means you have to continue watching, Brett. Yes, I know it's Brett. Okay, so I'm going to open up this guide track. I'm going to click on this region, and I'm going to right-click on it, and there is going to be a duplicate. Whoop. I am missing something here. There we go. Guide, duplicate. Sorry, not on the region. You actually click on the track. Right-click and duplicate it. And it makes two guide tracks. Now, there's a reason we want to do this, and I don't want to get too detailed about this, but long story short, we want to be able to repeat sections. But obviously, if I'm up here and the song is playing,
Chorus.
and it tells me to go to the chorus, I know to go to the chorus. But if I want to repeat a section, how do I readjust those cue tracks so that I can actually say, don't play the chorus, but play the section I'm currently in again? Well, what we need to do is we need to move through here and actually move sections of those cues down. So here's what I mean. This right here, this section right here says, we're in the chorus. I know it's kind of small there, but it says chorus. And near the end here, it's going to tell us to go to the outro.
Outro.
But this section here, this track is called the guide. This section I'm renaming to guide. I'm going to put a dash and hit R, which stands for repeat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm going to start cutting up these tracks by clicking on this little line where this section marker is, holding down my command key and tapping E. I'm going to move this guy down. And then I'm going to take this guy, click on the little play headline there, and I'm going to move it down. Now, I would do that for the entire song. I would take a section that's telling me what's coming up next and move it down. Why? Because when I'm playing this chorus here, I'm going to mute my regular guide and just keep my guide repeat unmuted. Let's say I wanted to repeat the outro.
Outro.
So since I moved that region of audio down, up above, this guy, oh, wrong one. This guy here is telling me, I realized that I didn't have my computer screen up. It was just me. I apologize. This guy right here, this region up above is telling me what happens next, what's coming up next. But this region down here tells me if I wanted to repeat, it tells me to repeat the current section. So let me play that again just so you can see.
Outro.
So it said outro because I want to repeat the outro. But what if I turn off the guide repeat, turn on the guide again? Ending, and then there I know that I'm about to play my ending. So if you want to be spontaneous with these tracks, you can cut them up and prepare them to actually allow you to repeat sections. Now, I don't want to get too detailed here, but when we're cutting up this tune, we also have the ability to allow Ableton to cue slides in ProPresenter. I know a lot of you are using ProPresenter. You also have the ability, we have the ability to cue sections in ProPresenter. And the way we would do that is by opening up this little ProPresenter folder. And again, I know that I'm not going through all the steps of how to get this stuff. I'm just showing you how I use this first. And if, for instance, if I have, in this select slide section, if I wanted slide 1 in ProPresenter to be cued there, and then slide 3 to be cued there, and then slide 7 to be cued here, I can click and drag those little slide markers or those slide regions onto the Ableton timeline. And the way you get Ableton to talk to ProPresenter to make it play slides, there's a great video from a guy named Jake Goslin that runs a channel called Churchfront that walks you through that. There's no reason for me to show you guys how to actually do that because there's tons of videos out there. But if you have questions about how to cue slides in ProPresenter, I'm your guy. If you don't want to watch those videos, reach out to me. I can help you do it. You also need to tell Ableton whether or not it is just going to play the song straight through and cue you about the next part, or whether it's going to repeat the current section you're playing. And we would drag, just like we drag slide cues for ProPresenter onto this timeline, we would slide next or repeat sections onto this timeline as well. And when you've done that, you have edited a song in Ableton that is ready to be added to, well, almost ready to be added to your entire project. The only other thing you need to do is tell Ableton, tell this specific song how to break up its song sections to be added to your project, okay? And the way you would do that is you would open up the master down here, you would click and drag on, let's say this entire section here is what you want to be the intro. Or let's say there are 2 choruses back to back here. Are there any? Wow, this is all just single choruses. This entire chorus, you want to be the chorus section. You would select these sections that you wanted to be added as sections in your song, and then you would say create, consolidate time to new scene. Easy as that. And then you make sure you save your work, and then how do you actually get it into your full Ableton project? Well, let me quit this. I'm not going to save it. Let's see here. Oh, Brett was telling me I couldn't see my screen. Sorry, Brett. I finally fixed it. Let's open up my main Ableton Sundays project here. It's finally going to open up here. And since I selected down at the bottom those master sections that I wanted to put as sections of the song, when you open up your full project, like I'm about to show you in a second here, it takes a while to open up. This is a really big project. I'll go here, yeah. All right. I scroll down, and that's how you get these sections of these songs. So see, All Hail King Jesus. I have this intro section, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, interlude, verse, pre-chorus, et cetera, okay? So once I have begun to add these sections of these songs into my full Ableton project, I'm able to play them. But I want to just kind of show you how... or I kind of want to show you like what I have set up here. Number one, you're going to see these different sections inside of Ableton. It says click, cues. We've already been through that. Click is your tempo. Cues is your 1, 2, 3, 4, or your verse, or play the chorus, or whatever section you're going into. Sometimes there is multiple percussion parts like drums, glockenspiel, shaker, all sorts of stuff. Not only is there one bass guitar, but sometimes there's multiple synth basses. So you see those grouped here. And then you see guitars. And remember, like I said, a band will go in and they'll record multiple guitar parts. Well, here there are 7 sections, because I have worked with tracks before that have 7 guitar parts you need to drag in, right? But long story short, you have all of these sections of your song, and if I play one of them, let's go with All Hail King Jesus here. I'm just hearing the click track.
1,
Here's my count in.
2, verse 2, 3, 4.
Here's the verse. Let's go to a little bit more full section. Now, once again, I may not need all of these instruments. For instance, like I said, I have a drummer, so I just turn off percussion. I have a bass player, so I turn off bass, and I've just got this full sound of extra guitars and keys and things like that. I will say, however, that there have been some situations. I would never use tracks to replace a drummer, but there have been times where I just could not find a bass player, and I didn't want to do an acoustic set, so I did unmute that bass channel, and I've got a bass player that never misses a note, which is much more than I can say for myself. And then you'll see over here, not only do I have instruments, but like I said, and again, I know that I didn't get into the details of this because I don't want this to be the nerdiest walkthrough ever. But over here, I also have a group here called Control, where I see when it's supposed to move to the next section. That's why it says 8 bar next. So after 8 bars, it goes to the next scene. These are called scenes. Or if I go to repeat, 8 bar repeat. Can I just show you what that looks like really quickly? If I'm playing, let me find a song that this would work on. Here's Build My Life. And here's the intro. If I wanted to repeat it, I want to repeat this intro.
Verse.
Actually, what I should do is this. Let me do that again. I want to repeat this section. So instead of saying verse, it's going to say intro again. Bad example, not working at all.
1, 2.
There it goes. It plays again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And you see it's not going to go down to the next line. It's going to go right back to the intro.
1.
Okay. I wish I found a better example there, but that's okay. What about Call Upon the Lord here? Let me do this. Okay, I'm going to go to the intro here. And normally it would say verse here in a minute. But what if I wanted to do the intro again?
Verse.
Okay, let me play that intro again. I'm going to now make it repeat and say intro again.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Goes right back to the intro.
4.
Okay, cool. So the way I'm doing that, if I could just show you really quickly, the way I'm doing that is, can I actually turn on? Yeah, here's my face. I have this this controller here, and I am using what's called MIDI. So this is connected through USB to my computer, and it is, there's a button here that says start. There's a button here that says, actually on another, start, then another button here that says count. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4 to start the song. So if I click this button at the top of a song, you'll just hear the click track. If I click this button, you'll hear the 1, 2, 3, 4 to the intro. This button here is the repeat button. And when I hit it, it not only moves from the standard cues to the repeat cues. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. It moves from the standard cues to the repeat cues. So instead of saying go to the verse, it's going to say play the intro again. It also cues this section here that goes, instead of saying, hey, move down to the next scene, it's telling me, or telling Ableton, I should say, repeat the next scene. Okay, so I have start the song, count in the song, repeat the section. If I want to cut to the end, I have this button here that cuts to the end. And then up here, I have 4 other buttons. So what on earth am I going to use all this real estate for? What if I just wanted to play an additional verse? I have this button cue, just a verse that I like in the song. This button goes to a chorus. This button goes to a bridge. If I touch this button, it stops the click track. If I hold this down, it kills everything. So let me show you what I mean there. I'm going to start this song. So I'm in Call Upon the Lord here, the chorus. If I just wanted to end it, I would hit this button, which I don't have mapped. So let me just actually map that real quick, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, let's go. Whoop. And whoop. I'm going to make this be the end. There we go. And I am going to show you how to do all of this in a second, I promise. So when I want to start this song, I click this button here. Okay, so you're just hearing the click track. Now I'm going to hit the count in. Oh, sorry.
1, 2.
There we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here comes the intro. What if my band's not ready, so I want to repeat the intro?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just goes right back to the intro and continues to play. But now my band's ready, so I want to go to the verse.
Verse.
And it moves on to the next section. And then if I want to end the song, I hit this button. And there we go. Maybe because I wanted to end early for some reason. Now the click is continuing to play, so how do I turn off the click if I want to? How do I kill everything? I hold this down. And everything goes away. So right at my feet, I have this system that is controlling all of these instruments right in front of me. And I will be honest, using this system is like learning how to use any other instrument. It is not easy. It takes some time. So like I said earlier, one thing I would suggest doing if you're getting into multi-tracks is start by just running a click track. Then start by just adding in like a little bit of a pad or something. Then maybe add in like some little percussion tracks. You want to get your team used to it. You don't want to just throw them into the fire right off the bat. But once they get used to it and once it's something they're used to doing regularly, man, it can be so much fun. Let me hop back over to Ableton. So long story short, I have this controller that is controlling everything happening in Ableton. How am I getting this controller? Once again, I'm just showing you what I do. How am I getting this controller to cue this guy right here? Now, this controller that's in front of me, it's made by Morningstar Engineering. It's called the MC8. They make an MC6, they make an MC3. The MC8 is amazing, and I'll tell you why. What this controller is doing is it is actually sending MIDI signal via a USB cable into my computer. That MIDI signal is being received by my computer, and it's triggering sounds in Ableton. Now that may sound really, really complicated and difficult, but it's something you do every day if you use a computer. Have you ever used a keyboard? Now, this keyboard is a Bluetooth keyboard, but what if this keyboard was wired? Well, you're hitting a button on the keyboard, a digital signal is going through that cable, it's plugging into your computer, and all of a sudden on your computer, letters appear, right? Easiest thing in the world to understand. But then when we start talking about doing that with music, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Well, this MC8 takes a little bit, there is a little bit of a setup process that you need to be aware of. But once you get used to it, it's very, very easy. But long story short, here's what you need to understand. Each one of these buttons sends a MIDI signal. As a matter of fact, each one of these buttons can send multiple MIDI signals. I can set this controller up to when I tap a button, something happens. When I press and hold a button, something happens. I can set it up to do all sorts of things. I also can plug other MIDI information into this controller, like this expression pedal. One thing I've done with this expression pedal is made it be able to turn up and down the pad. Behind all worship music, you hear that. That's the pad. And you'll notice at the beginning of most of the songs that I play, right here on my screen, you'll see on the pads channel, you'll see right there the A. So if I click this and push play, nothing happens. But if I begin to turn up this pedal, you start to hear that pad. I turn the pedal down. You get it. So I can plug other things into this MIDI controller. I also have the ability to have what's called multiple banks. You see, what I have it set up to do is song 1 is on bank 1, but when I bank up, song 2 is on bank 2. Bank up, song 3 is on, and you get the idea. So I also have this LED strip, and you can use software to actually change what it says on this screen. So not only, it doesn't just say song 1, song 2, song 3, I can actually have it say, All Hail King Jesus. I can have it say, God, I look to you. I can have it say, whatever song I'm cueing, I can have it shown on this LED strip here. It's all done via the web. You plug this MIDI controller into your computer, and you open up, let's see here. Where's my other web browser here? Yeah, you open up the Morningstar. Sorry. There we go. You open up the Morningstar Engineering website, and you can actually control what this device does. Again, you're looking at something that looks extremely detailed. For someone who is brand new, that's okay. Because once you start using this MIDI controller, it's something you get way used to, and it becomes extremely easy to use. So that's what I do in Ableton. I have a MIDI controller that sends signal to an entire project that is cueing every song I've ever played at my church. And yeah, that's a lot of information to keep track of. But once you begin using this week in and week out, it becomes like any other instrument that you use regularly. Let me just double check and make sure there's no questions before we move on. Yes. Okay. So it looks like we are hanging in there. We are doing okay. All right. Let's go back to Ableton here for a second. And yes, I'm continuing to drink coffee. Now, Ableton is not the only way you can cue tracks, okay? There's also a couple of pieces of software that have been created by, you guessed it, Multitracks.com and Loop Community. And one of those apps, I'm just going to show you really quickly, is called Prime. Let me hide Ableton really quickly. Now, the beautiful thing about Loop Community is that the beautiful thing about Loop Community and Multitracks.com is they've developed these apps that allow you to run the tracks you've purchased from their site. I will say this though, do they do everything that Ableton does? No. The reason why I use Ableton Live is because it is way more customizable than an app like this. Is Ableton easier to use than Prime or the Multitracks playback app? No. Ableton can be quite detailed. These apps are way easier to use. They just don't do as much. And when you use an app like Playback or Looptimus Prime, you are charged a monthly fee to unlock all of their features. Now that fee's only about $10 a month, but you purchase Ableton for $600, $700 and you're thinking, oh, that's such a huge chunk to bite off at once. But if you use it for a few years, you've already paid, you've already hit the cost of what Prime would have been during that time, okay? So in my experience, I just want to have all of the tips and tricks and stuff right at my fingertips at all times, and Ableton Live can do what these apps can do and more. Is there a learning curve? Yes, but that's why YouTube exists, which is what we're doing right now, okay? let me just, before I just get out of here, and I don't need to show you guys Prime because we're going to stick with Ableton for today. Let me just make sure there's no questions before we move on. All right, looks like everybody is good to go, and awesome. Okay, so when I'm in Ableton, and I'm ready to actually run my set, I have the ability, like I said, to cue this little MIDI controller. It's going to shoot signal right into Ableton. It's going to play the songs I want, and it's going to be edited the way I want ahead of time so that I can lead worship at full capacity. And the way that works, the way I set it up so that this controller is sending signal into Ableton, like I said, is by using MIDI. And how do I actually set these buttons up to cue certain things? Well, I'll show you how. So I'm actually, let me go over here to my screen. I'm actually going to hold down my command key and hit the letter M when Ableton is open, and it highlights everything. So you can use a MIDI signal to cue almost anything in Ableton Live. I'm going to use it to cue songs. Okay, so here's Christ Be Magnified. Okay, here's the intro rate. So I'm going to click on the intro here and just type in, or not type in, I'm sorry, what am I talking about? I'm going to hit a button on my pedal, and it's going to say, hey, this button's assigned somewhere else. That's because I've used it on another song. But yes, I want it to assign to this. I'm going to click a button here. Yes, I want to use it there. And I'm going to click end. Yes. Now I'm going to bank up on my pedal, go to the next bank, right? And let's go to Cornerstone. Start. Yes. Count in. Yes. End. Great. And then when I'm done, I hold down Command M again, and it stops highlighting everything. So I'm going to, on my pedal here, I'm going to go back down one bank, and this should be firing Christ Be Magnified. Oh, sorry. I had my click turned off. Okay, so I'm just hearing my click. Now I'm going to hit my count in. What key is this in? Oh, I'm not hearing my pad. Let me turn it up. There we go.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4. Verse 1.
Were creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry? Then from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified.
Verse 2. Drums in.
Were creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry? And from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified.
Chorus. All in.
We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified. I'm going to end right here, 3, 4. See that? So I just hit that end button and it cut right to the end for me. And I want to sing something right here. But I really want to slow it down, so I want to turn off that click track. But I've still got my pad, and I'm just going to turn it up a little bit because I want some more. And I sing for a little bit, and I'm just going to pull my pad back to bring it all the way out. I bank up to the next tune, and here comes Cornerstone. Turn my click on.
1, 2, 1.
I think this is in
2,
C, right?
3, 4.
So you get the idea. So long story short, you have the ability to control all of these songs that have whatever instruments you want from the original recording playing behind you. Now, we could get way more detailed about how to edit this stuff, and I'm probably going to do that in some videos in the future. But for now, I just kind of wanted to give a basic overview. Nailed it. I wanted just to give a basic overview of how I run these tracks, okay? So if you have any questions, what I'm going to ask you to do is, this video is going to be on my channel. I'm going to ask you to put it in the comments, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I would love to get back to you on some more videos that there are some more features of the system that I use every Sunday that might help you as a worship leader. Now, I do want to mention one thing really, really quickly, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have any questions before I do. Awesome. I did want to mention one thing. A lot of people want to get into the whole multi-track arena, but they're just scared to do so. They also may not have time to do so. Well, one thing that my company does is creates systems like this for churches. So if you're someone who's sitting there going, you know, I wish I could do this. I have the budget for this. It's no problem. It's just a matter of time, and I don't want to have to learn basically how to use a brand new instrument. Well, that's where I come in. My company creates systems like this for people. We set it up for them where all they have to do is pull out their, let me just go here, pull out their controller every single week, and their project is sent to them ready to use for a Sunday. So if you're interested in that at all, if that piques your interest and you want to learn more, feel free just to leave me a comment, and we will get back to you. Other than that, like I said, like this video, do all the YouTube things, subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for letting me give you this really quick overview of how Ableton has really made my life easier as a worship leader, and it's also been really fun. Have a good one.